I'm Tracy Correa. We live here in South Bend, Indiana, and my son Matthias is a longtime Sylvan student. So our journey with Matthias was really challenging. From the moment he was born, he was different. He struggled to eat and even nurse as soon as he was born, and we knew that there were some challenges. For the first few years of life, he stopped hitting developmental milestones, most specifically related to his verbal skills. He was nonverbal, I think, till the age of 5, and we were having him screened for all sorts of conditions, and no one could really tell us what was going on with him. What was clear is that he struggled with a lot of sensory things. He had a lot of challenges communicating, and even when he became verbal, he had significant delays in his linguistic abilities. We had him tested and screened, and it became clear that that half of the brain that dealt with language, reading, writing, even speaking, was significantly delayed, even though his analytical and math skills were almost off the charts. So as a family, we were hoping to find a way to help him catch up, if you will, to compensate for that half of the brain that really wasn't developed well. And that's what eventually brought us to Sylvan around the age when he was in elementary school. For Matthias, reading and writing was a challenge. He couldn't even hold a pencil to write. And that created all sorts of difficulties with him completing his work and frankly feeling confident that he could actually communicate his ideas, both to us at home and more importantly to his teachers and his colleagues at school. So our journey to Sylvan really focused on helping him find his way. How could he become more confident and believe that he could speak and share all the big ideas he had bottled up inside with the world? And how could he learn and understand techniques that would help him write and communicate and read as efficiently and effectively as classmates who would seem to easily, read through a book with no effort? For Matthias, opening a page of printed text literally triggered anxiety. He would say things like, "These are too many words, Mom, I will never do this." And Sylvan changed all of that. So we started to see our gains with Matthias really start to materialize in the elementary to middle school transition from when he was at Kennedy and going into LaSalle. Again, that's where the first reading and literacy issues started to really heighten while he was at Kennedy. He actually failed the iRead and was almost going to be held back. We got a retest that summer, at least saved that and kept him on track with school, but it was clear that we needed help. When we arrived at Sylvan, Matthias' testing affirmed what we suspected and what his teachers were seeing, that half of his brain really wasn't on par with his other abilities. And what was more troubling as a mother was how much his self-assessment was just so miserably low. He frankly didn't believe he could do it, which was a secondary challenge we were going to have to overcome. So what we saw by coming to Sylvan regularly, and Matthias was coming 2 to 3 days a week, I believe, in those early days, and then in the summer he was coming every day. We were really trying to work on priming him for the next grade so he would come in with a head start, and then playing catch up throughout the year and keeping pace with homework and the skills they were trying to impart in the classroom. What we started to see is Matthias's literacy scores, the things related to his reading and writing abilities, those were starting to rise steadily. They were not yet to where math was, because that really was quite off the charts for him, but they were making steady gains. What was sad, though, was that his self-perceptions were lagging. He still would self-evaluate here at Sylvan that he wasn't as good as he was, even on paper. His gains that we were starting to see still hadn't translated to confidence. But that's not surprising for a child who was nonverbal for so much of his life. So it took time. And by the time we moved through into LaSalle, it was clear that Matthias was starting to track on par with what we expected. He was going to be an honor student. He was going to be able to hold accelerated coursework and eventually AP coursework. We didn't know for sure in all what subjects, but we knew that he was finally starting to test at the level we would expect. So by the time we were finishing that middle school era, looking toward high school, Matthias's English skills, his language skills were finally testing in standardized testing and in his classroom performance, at least average or slightly above average to his peers, which was a huge moment for us as a family. And more steadily, those self-evaluations, do I believe I can share my ideas? Do I believe I can speak, intelligently and effectively? Those were also starting to slowly rise. So we were doing some really heavy work from middle school, elementary to middle school here at Sylvan to rebuild all the damage that was done from all those years of being nonverbal. So high school arrived. and Matthias chose to go to Riley High School here in South Bend. It's a Project Lead the Way high school that has an engineering magnet program, and Matthias wants to be an engineer. No surprise, that math side of his brain is pretty amazing, and his mom's an engineer. Well, anyway, I was really worried because Matthias started signing up for AP World History, all the advanced honors English courses, and I'm thinking, oh goodness, we're trying to take on now the things that we had been fighting so hard to even stabilize. Now we're going to read large volumes of history, right, every week, and we're going to have to write essays for the AP. And could we do that? As a family, I was scared. But Sylvan stood with us, and we started to attack it. Was the road bumpy? It certainly was. Because now Matthias was going to have to face some of his biggest fears head on. He was going to have to write large, unstructured essays on a clock for an AP board, right? He was going to have to write significant analytical pieces in, writing and analyzing text, things that he can do. He can analyze math and science. Analyzing writing was always the scariest thing for him. So what we saw is that Sylvan really stood with us in the moments when those fears would creep up and Matthias would hide from those assignments. They helped show him he could do it, make a plan of attack, and stay on track. Teachers at Riley were also very supportive in understanding that Matthias had some issues that would often make him think, again, that he couldn't do these amazing things when really he could if he could just put those fears away. So we moved through high school and Matthias started racking straight A's. He passed his first AP in freshman year in world history, which blew my mind because there were essays involved and lots of reading. But we got through that. Every Sunday we worked on history. And as the school years progressed, as he moved through Riley, this year he's heading into senior year, he continued to accumulate those high scores, and standardized testing was finally starting to show what we all knew about him. In terms of PSAT, all of a sudden he was getting scores that was getting recognition. He became on the watch list for various College Board and AP kind of services because of the high scores he was getting. He became a Indiana academic all-star. He's one of that class of 2024 all-stars now. He's a Hispanic recognition College Board scholar, so we get letters from Harvard, from Yale, from MIT, from Columbia, from Johns Hopkins. If you would see the stack of emails and letters this boy gets now from all of these schools, and then he throws them to the side because he has his own agenda about staying here in the Midwest, which our friends on the East and West Coast just don't seem to understand. But the point is, some of the leading Ivy League schools are knocking on his door now because of how much he's been able to achieve. So what really blew my mind, and really the proof that we had finally made it together working with Sylvan, was when the SAT scores came out. So my son, he was going to take the SAT his junior year, spring, at his high school as part of a standard practice there. I already booked the summer test knowing we're going to have to take it a couple times to get the score he would need to get into all those schools who were sending us those letters. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia at a meeting when my son texts on the day I knew the scores were coming out. And of course, like any 17-year-old, he's like, test scores out, ... And I'm like, okay, text back and he goes, 1550. And it blew my mind as a mother because I never would have dreamt of 1550. I didn't get a 1550. And so what a 1550 means is not only does he have a score that's going to be worthy of all those letters that are coming to our house and recruiting him, but it meant that his language score was now on par for the first time in his life, truly as excellent, on par with his math abilities. And that blew my mind, right? That meant that he had to get almost equal scores on both parts of the test. And indeed he did. It was a 780 in math and a 770 in his verbal. That is insane for my son, who spent so many years of his life not even being able to tell me he could drink, he wanted a glass of milk, or that he needed, something from me because he couldn't find the words. So to come from a 5-year-old who used to lay on the floor in frustration because he didn't know how to communicate his basic needs, to a 17-year-old with a 1550 and a stack of letters from colleges fighting for his application is utterly shocking to me as a mother. And perhaps the greatest icing on the cake came actually just about 2 weeks ago. So we went through the junior year. I understand that might be the toughest year. A lot of parents say so. It was for us. Matthias was competing in multiple sports, another thing we wouldn't have predicted with his condition, all kinds of leadership positions in the school. In addition to that, we've run out of space for letters on his jacket. This kid is so connected with his high school. And he was taking 3 APs, including AP English. And I was like, oh, are we gonna do this? And there were moments where I was afraid we couldn't, because he just was so busy that he couldn't even fit the hours to work. So Sylvan really tried to help him, especially with English, which he again would get quite scared about. The AP test scores came back. He got a 4 in English. I would have never guessed he would have got 4. He said to me, Mom, this was a dark horse. I knew I was going to get a good one in chemistry, but English? Yeah, English. And I would have been happy for him to pass it. I was scared maybe he wouldn't, because I found out during the test he had a brutal nosebleed. And so, he lost testing time. He was stressed. And I thought, oh my gosh, we might have blown this AP. And it came in a 4, which means he was strong enough, even losing testing time, to produce an essay of that caliber. I just can't believe it. So next semester, or next year, senior year, our high school has authorized him to take 4 APs, which is unprecedented, in addition to his capstone engineering project. And he's not scared to attack it. And I'm not scared as a mother, because I know we have our partnership here at Sylvan that's going to help him get through this last stretch, help him with those college essays, and find out which university is going to be lucky enough to have my son. So as parents, we always want what's best for our children. But when our children have challenges, sometimes we feel so alone and in the dark. You don't get a manual that's going to teach you how to get through those moments, and you're not even sure where to turn in our community to find help. I know as a mother, I was cobbling together support and services in any way I could to try to get this little boy to grow into the man I knew he could become. And in Sylvan, I found a partner who was there for the long haul. And when I talk about the long haul, for us as a family, we've been here for years, steady, every week, every day in the summers, whatever it took to help get my son to the place where I knew he would be prepared for college and prepared to succeed. And when I say a partner in the long haul, it's not just the skill sets they develop that teach him how to attack an essay, or how to better plan his work time, or how to, structure his strategy for a particular assignment. It's the confidence. It's helping him believe in himself. It's helping him know and understand that he's worthy and he has these skills, even if he has to work a little harder. So that kind of soft skill and that love and support is equally as critical as all the concrete skills and abilities that Sylvan's helped to cultivate in him. And as a result, I also want to say, just as a mother, it's knowing that you have a friend in the team here that you can text and call and email and say, hey, we're in trouble. There's an assignment that I didn't know about that he's struggling with. Can we adapt the plan for this week to attack it? And the answer is always, sure. Let's see what we can do. Double sessions on Tuesday, got it. Squeeze them in again on Thursday, got it. There was never a time where Sylvan's like, no, we can't do that. It was always like, yes, we will find a way. And for a mother who was working really hard to find this little boy a support point, and now this young man a partner, we couldn't have been more blessed than to find Sylvan and to make the connection here and to be able to call them our true friends in this journey. Because now I know that in about a year I'm going to send him off to college. And I know that he'll have all of these skills to lean on, but more importantly, the confidence that Sylvan built in him that's going to get him through those late nights studying. He thinks he's going to be an engineer. I'm not trying to pressure, but that's probably where we're headed. And that's a long and hard journey. I know that personally from being an engineer myself. And I know that because of the foundation we've built here with Sylvan, he's going to be okay. And when he comes back for a break or a visit, I'm sure he's going to pop in here and see all his friends and tell them how all those years of hard work have paid off. And this young man is now becoming the young engineering leader we all dreamed he would be. So thank you, Sylvan. Thank you for being our friend, our partner, and frankly, my son's rock all of these years.